Well, you join us back again at Barcelona for the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine as we get set ready for race one of the weekend. Race one of two here around the Spanish circuit as we take you through 4.657 kilometers in length, 30 minutes max plus the one lap, and it's going to be an immense fight with the top two in the championship on the front two spots on the grid with air temperature standing at a massive 27 degrees. The track temperature still exceedingly warm at 38 degrees alike, and humidity standing at 69%, but has slowly dissipated as we've made our way through the day. But it is still extraordinarily thick out there. The drivers are going to have to cope with it. But after a stunning qualifying session, it's Freddie Slater who sits on pole position, marking his fourth pole, and he will feature alongside fellow title rival Matteo De Paolo in second place for Trident. Enzo Dellini and Pedro Clero line up on row two, also in the championship scuffle, with Jin Nakamura in fifth, winner of the Pirelli Rising Car Award. Nanovid Biram-Bakti in sixth, and then Nikita Bedrin will be in seventh, with Evan Gilter joining him on the fourth row for ART, Rashid Al-Dahiri in for Prema on row five, with Jack Beaton for Company, then Taito Kato in 11th alongside Edu Robinson in 12th. In 13th place, it's Santiago Ramos on his return to RPM, lining up alongside Michael Belov back in for CL. Then Dion Gauda, the leading rookie, in 15th, with Akshay Bora in 16th. Kanato Lay in 17th, alongside Ruiki Liu. They are sharing the 9th row of the grid. Moving down into position 19, Sakir Al-Maushari with G4 Racing, alongside the returning Maceo Capieto for RPM. Juan Pucui in his debut start in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, alongside Tim Gerhards in 22nd. Giovanni Maschio lines up 23rd, joined by Hugh Yamakoshi after a disappointing qualifying in 24th. Edward Borgner in 25th, and Yaroslav Vasalo and Sansalok Racing starting from the back of the grid. So there we have it, 26 drivers will be making their way around this circuit here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, as we now look to open up this weekend in style. This circuit, of course, home to the Spanish Grand Prix, as it has done so ever since 1991 through to 2025. Of course, broke ground at this circuit when they brought it into being back on the 24th of February 1989, 36 years ago, and then opened 2 years later on the 10th of September 1991, and was, of course, the start-finish line for the cycling race during the 1991 Olympics. So we now await, obviously, for the teams to disperse. We'll then eventually get underway for the formation lap, and a minute has been raised by the marshals and the stewards that are on circuit. See now the crowd's dispersing, and it's down to the drivers solely. Let's talk about the championship then, folks, and just exactly what led us to this position. Of course, we've seen many great results across the board. Freddie Slater, of course, though back on pole position after a tricky round back at Austria where he felt the tyres kind of betrayed him for that round. It wasn't ideal at all, certainly not one of his strongest performances through the course of a weekend. But so far this campaign, he's racked together 5 wins, 8 podiums, and 4 now pole positions in total. And he's looking to make it race win number 6 here with this one this time. But Matteo De Paolo has been ultimately a thorn in his side with a victory to open up this season back at Misano. And the next one came at Hungaroring in race 1. He also took race 1 victory at Red Bull Ring, and looking for a giant leap off the line. We spoke to him after qualifying, caught up with him as he gave us his thoughts after the session, and basically said it is a long road down through towards turn 1. If it's going to happen, it'll happen on the start, the opening lap, were the words he gave us. Enzo Dellini starting on the second row, also with Pedro Clero. Basically, to lay it all out for you folks, the top 4 in the championship sit in the top 4 of the starting grid as we look ahead to go racing this time around at Barcelona. And we're looking forward to bringing it to you as well. Historically at this circuit, of course, Prema have been, by and large, one of the more successful teams. Van Amersfoort, though, have had wins in the past. Last year, it was James Wharton who ultimately landed the killer blows there for Prema. Went right through the weekend and was the first driver to do that, well, since Tim Tramnitz the year before. Tim Tramnitz doing the double. We have had 3 different occasions in the last 4 years since we were undergoing the current format that we now witness. Get this, folks. back in 2021 was the first year we had the double race format. Obviously, the 2 seasons prior, it was the 3-race format where we saw Oliver Rasmussen and Pierre-Louis Chauvet win back in 2020. And it was Frederick Vesti and David Schumacher back in 2019 that went on to win at this very circuit. But in 2021, Gregoire Saucy, the first driver to go on to taking a blanket weekend, taking both poles, but also, more importantly, the 2 victories, and went on to pursue the title. We didn't have it in 2022 because both Paul Aron and Gabriel Bortoleto were winners at this circuit, but Tim Tramnitz did the double last year, if you remember, not last year, sorry, the year before last, when he was in a title fight with Andrea Kimi Antonelli. But ultimately, it was Martini Stenshorn who became the biggest threat to Antonelli's title reign. But Tramnitz winning both races here on the Barcelona weekend, and James Wharton winning both races here last season as well. But in terms of race wins, Prema, in their history, have had 5 at this, or 6 at this track. We include Frederick Vesti as well at the very beginning, and obviously with Oliver Rasmussen winning 2 races back in 2020. ART have won here twice, with Gregoire Saucy, of course, and RSGP with 3 in their history. 3 race wins in the last, well, should we say at this point, 5 runnings of this race. And that all stemmed from 2022 in race 2, where Gabriel Bortoleto delivered the goods after starting from pole position. And very often this race is won from pole position. The only driver not to win from pole position since 2022, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, was the only one unable to do so. Took pole back in 2023 for race 1, and it was Tim Tramnitz who would ultimately lift the winning trophy aloft and would do it again after going from pole to victory the following day. But we're now focused in the now, and it's between Freddie Slater and Matteo De Parlo, and we thank all of you for joining us once again, wherever you are tuning in from around the world. And if you've enjoyed this season's run, it has certainly been one of the most competitive seasons in the history of the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. The points explain themselves. The top 4 all within 80 points. But we could very quickly dilute the number of potential title hopefuls down to maybe 3, maybe 2, even come the end of the weekend. We do, of course, have Hockenheim and Monza to come after this Barcelona round concludes. So 3 rounds remain, if we include this one, in our quest to decide a Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine champion. There is, of course, the 55 car belonging to Dion Gauda, who's sitting in rookie P2 in terms of the classification, but has by and large been flying the flag for the rookie class this season. Edu Robinson starting higher than he does this time around for G4 Racing in 12th. And keep your eyes peeled on the other Prema drivers too. Jack Beaton inside the top 10. Rashid Al-Dahiri just behind Evan Gilter. Trident with Nanovid Birankbakti also in this in 6th place. Just behind Jin Nakamura. We're just waiting for the remaining drivers now to line up with the 2 pace cars at the rear. The marshal now swapping flags from yellow to green. As now the green flag gets waved, we await the lights to go red here in Barcelona. All 5 lights are lit. And let's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. Great start for Freddie Slater as he leads the way. Matteo De Parlo equally getting a good jump too, and onto the grass. A great start for Enzo Tellini, but he's on to the green stuff. And in comes now out of nowhere Jin Nakamura. 2 RSGPs fighting for the front, but Matteo De Parlo leads the way in a front wing loss for Enzo Tellini. My goodness me, that is absolutely devastating for Enzo Tellini. He's going to have to come in and get that change, but more importantly, it's Matteo De Parlo getting the jump on Freddie Slater here at Barcelona. 4 wide coming in towards turn 4 this time as well. Tellini part of it as he's now in free fall, making his way down through the order. That is a disaster for Enzo Tellini. His teammate Jin Nakamura also getting a busy getaway and storming into 3rd place here as now it's wheel to wheel now further back. We got Pedro Claro trying to fight firm. He has now made his way into 4th as well. We got the number 7 of Nanovid Birankbakti being met by Evan Gilter. In comes Michael Belov, the sole CL Motorsport car here this weekend, as as they now climb the hill through towards Kamsa Corner now. De Paulo, Slater, Nakamura, Clero, Bedrin, also part of this as well. Further back, we have the 55 of Dion Cauda currently going to work at the moment. This time joined by Canato Lay, also Santiago Ramos getting a busy start as well. There's Nikita Bedrin in the number 10. Santalok also trying to creep his way through, just in behind Canato Lay as they come up through towards Bank Sabadell this time. We've got the RPM further back side by side here with what looks to be a G4 racing car as they now disperse and head downhill. There you can see Jack Beaton raising the stakes now up into 9th place. Rashid Al-Dahiri also gaining a spot up into 8th as well. That's off the back of Delaney's mishap, as now we now see the number 6 car try to make its way through of Hiyu Yamakoshi, who's actually got a big bold start here up into 20th place and ahead of Maceo Capietto as they now peel off. And it's wheel to wheel elsewhere as they now make their way down through towards turn 1. It's De Paulo, Slater, and still there with them Nakamura, Clero there too as they come out of turn 2 this time. And it's wheel to wheel also further back as Jack Beaton looks to get on the rise. Wampu Kui also going side by side with what looks to be Ruiki Liu as they come down now in towards the next right-hander. There's Jack Beaton now. He's being met by Michael Belov at the moment, one of the most experienced drivers in this grid, has been part of the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine now for such a long time, dating all the way back to 2022 as now they come through out of Seat Corner. De Paulo now 7/10 clear of Freddie Slater at this stage. He said he needed a good start. He said this race could be won and lost at the start. And we're going to see if he can prove his own point now this time as they climb uphill through towards Kamsa Corner. Belov right on the tail of Jack Beaton, Canato Lay joining them as well at the same time. Freddie Slater trying to nurse his way back through. We've got Jin Nakamura though, who's having a great start to his race as well here today. Obviously where Delaney fell, Nakamura picked it back up and is now trying to give chase after Freddie Slater. Remember, Nakamura winning the Pirelli Rising Car Award after gaining 20 places in one race back at Red Bull Ring, and that's got to be some kind of a record. I have not yet researched that, but I would imagine it is. I haven't heard many drivers go on to do that from the very back of the grid to achieving points in such vast numbers such as this in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine is no mean feat. He did have fresh tyres, but you need to be able to utilise them to get them there, and that's exactly what he did. And now sits with Pedro Clero right in his rear, and of course it was a breakthrough weekend for Pedro Clero as well, with a fantastic victory going his way to end the weekend, to coincide with the fantastic round at Zandvoort, where he podiumed right through the weekend at Van Amersfoort Racing's home race. And chasing for further grandeur as well. Of course, Clero is still very much in the championship fight, arrived in at 4th position in the table, just in behind Enzo Delaney, and one would certainly wonder, surely at this point, Clero has a great chance of moving up to 3rd in the championship. But the problem he does have at the moment, Freddie Slater and Matteo De Paulo certainly look set to continue their title hustle and could potentially turn it into a 2-horse race for the title here at this point. Matteo De Paulo, 3 times a race winner this season. Freddie Slater, 5 times. As they come down in towards the heavy braking zone at Lakea Bend at the end of the long run in towards turn 10 and now through turn 11 before venturing down in towards turn 12, later 13 and 14. It's nose to tail is the 89 ART of Taito Kato meets Evan Gilter, the 2 teammates. Of course, Gilter only winning 1 race this season, and it was in the very first round at Misano. Everyone thought that, especially after his run in the Middle Eastern Championship, where he beat Freddie Slater, that he would have gone on to also be part of the championship fold. Slater just tracking Matteo De Paulo at this point, and it's wheel-to-wheel between Pedro Clero and Jin Nakamura in towards turn 1. Long way around the outside here for Pedro Clero, the Brazilian with the tightest of lines. Pulls off the move now, and into 3rd place he goes. Great move there from Pedro Clero. And onto the podium once again. Chasing his 5th podium, to be precise, as well, which will leave him just 2 short of Matteo De Paulo and Enzo Delaney. Slater standing tall with 8 against his name so far, and hence why he comes into this really as the championship leader. As I said, a slender points margin of 3, and Matteo De Paulo has been stunning ever since he stepped in to the Trident hot seat. Of course, it's a hot seat that certainly Freddie Slater is going to be part of next year when he finds his way into FIA Formula 3. And we do wish, of course, Freddie Slater very well indeed. That is, of course, the news that was broken not too long ago. And Trident have been so good in producing world-class talents. But at the same time, they nurtured the Prema driver Rafael Camara from last season in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Of course, he moved to Trident ahead of FIA Formula 3, and now an FIA Formula 3 champion, and surely a route that Slater's looking to take. But first and foremost, he's got a title to win here, and it's a Trident driver that sits in his way right now, with currently Matteo De Parlo holding station in this race lead position right now. But Slater is only 4/10 back, and with one use of push to pass, it could yet bring him slightly closer. Remember, they do like to save them until the end of the race. 5 uses, 10 seconds apiece as they come down in towards turn 1. A big swapper there for Matteo De Parlo. Just see there the swap of the hands, trying to find the grip. Freddie Slater looked very smooth coming through out of turn 2. And both of these two up at the very front, now starting to clear Pedro Clearo by a second now. So wouldn't count out the Brazilian just yet as he looks to try and dig himself a little bit closer to Freddie Slater. Claro's first podium coming at Zandvoort. Was very close to achieving it back at Misano as well. It's been a voyage of progression for Pedro Clearo. It's part of Van Amersfoort last season, MP Motorsport in F4 competition the year before. Now rising up the hill through towards Kampse Corner at turn 9. He'll look to give chase after Slater once again this time. Nakamura still holding station in 4th place ahead of Nandavid Birenbakhti, who's having a great race so far. Nandavid Birenbakhti, who his best points finish was 4 points back at Misano at our opening round in race 2. He's had a sprinkling of 2 points finishes, so P9 finishes at both Hungaroring and also Paul Ricard, but this is a whole different level that we're playing with now with Nandavid Birenbakhti, with 6 points potentially finding its way to him. And he'll grasp every opportunity, I'm sure, and this could be great for Trident at the same time. Got a great opportunity with some fantastic drivers in their rostrum. Now heading down through towards turn 1, they'll go again. Canal Soleil also on the cusp of the top 10 as well, sitting in 11th behind Michael Belov. As now they cruise through turns 1 and turns 2 again. Clearo still ahead of Nakamura. Nakamura, though, hasn't left the rear of Clearo, despite losing the position in P3 for the podium. Quite happy to wait for his opportunity to perhaps later strike as they weave through in towards turn 4. Evan Gilter still chasing after fellow ART driver Taito Kato, who's currently locked 7/10, nearly 7/10 away from Nandavid Birenbakhti, who would, I'm sure, be absolutely thrilled with this performance. Be a great start to the weekend. He had a fantastic qualifying this morning. But 20 minutes and 40 or so to go, plus the 1 lap to take. There's Taito Kato, of course, Honda-powered, sponsored. And be looking to make an impression under the Honda banner here at Barcelona. Slater now starting to drop away from Matteo De Parlo. The gap is now extended to 9/10, and this will mean, if it stays like this, that Matteo De Parlo will take the lead of the championship once again. Of course, a win here would push De Parlo to 220 points, with Slater being left on 216. But it's all a mystery until we hit the checkered flag as they charge down through towards turn 1 again. Further back, there's Rashid Al-Dahiri in 8th place. 8/10 away from Evan Gilter at the moment. Prema was still 3 drivers sat inside the top 10, and of course Juan Pucui, who's coming in his first weekend here with Prema as well. Currently locked down in 19th place, coming through from British F4. And on the tail of Hiyu Yamakoshi at the moment, he's had also a great rise through the rostrum of cars. Now in 18th place, just behind Ruiki Liu at the moment, and trying to carve his way through the field in a bid to get himself closer to the top 10 as they descend downhill through out of Seat Corner on the run down through towards Verth Curve. And it is still De Parlo now. He's extended the gap to 1.1. He's now beyond a second clear of Freddie Slater, with Clearo 1.5 back as well. Jin Nakamura still remains within a second, 8/10 away to be precise. Nanavid Biramakti with 1.8 seconds to find, and obviously this does allow Taito Kato perhaps an opportunity later on to challenge the Trident driver in a bid to land himself a P5 position. But heartbreak for Enzo Dellini, who is still going around at the moment. Obviously had to have a wing change, you fathom, at this stage. But just trying to see whether he is indeed still out on track. I believe he is. Yes, he is. He's making his way through the first sector at the moment. It's been a really horrendous start to the weekend for Enzo Dellini. Obviously qualifying was great, but the race just falling apart after he ventured into the off-track and just catching one of those bumps awkwardly. And just stripped the front wing away from the front of his R-Race GP car. Of course, Nakamura taking the opportunity with both hands. Of course, he's supported by the Toyota Gazoo Racing School. And Kamui Kobayashi has also been involved with his progress. We saw Kobayashi visit the Misano circuit back at the start of the season. And he spent some time in Jin Nakamura's garage space and was offering helpful words of wisdom, I'm sure. Actually got a chance to speak to him myself and didn't get a chance to have a few words, but he was enjoying the weekend anyway. It was a busy weekend back at Misano with the Aichi Sports organisation featuring various championships. As now Evan Gilter gets a little bit closer now to Taito Kato on the run down through towards turn 10 again. Another look from Gilter here this time. Obviously, he's got to tread with caution here because it is his teammate that he's playing with right now. And things haven't gone Gilter's way this season, so it'd be understandable if he might be a little hasty where it comes to making moves here. I know that he's very disappointed with quite a number of the results that have occurred. Just could not quite find the answer to the rest of the grid. And of course, ART is the team, though, looking forward to next season and what's to come. With, obviously, a new car and under a new name, which we'll see this championship being known as the Formula Regional European Championship, like of old, back in 2019 and 2020. So now the two ARTs fly up through turns 1, 2, and then later turns 3. In towards turn 4 now this time. Pedro Clero still holding on to third place at the moment, ahead of Jin Nakamura. There's Nanavid Biramakti. With the ARTs now starting to drop away from Biramakti. Now it's 9/10 the gap between Taito Kato and Biramakti. And now Gilter, more the issue for the young Japanese talent. As you can see, Gilter has been nudging himself ever closer to the back of Taito Kato's car. And Rashid Al-Dahiri there on points as well to bank on any mistake that the two of them make as they come up through towards Birth Curve here this time. Of course, former drivers' champions of the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Of course, in the prior rendition of it, Frederick Vesti, Gianluca Petikov, both for Prema, Gregor Sorsi in 2021, Dino Beganovic in 2022, Andrea Kimi Antonelli in 2023, and Rafael Camara 2024. Prema fielding 5 of the 6 previous champions in this series, with ART also landing one in between. But at the moment, considering where Gilter and Taito Kato are at the moment, they're a little ways off that right now. But Matteo De Paolo potentially putting Trident into the furore of being a potential team for the first time netting a Drivers' Championship. That's very much the mission on De Paolo's mind. Will take the championship lead come the end of this race, should it remain as it is. 1.2 seconds ahead of Freddie Slater. Clearer 1.7 behind those two. The gap's now starting to elongate. Sakir Al-Maushari now with G4 Racing after moving across from Axel GP, now 1.5 seconds away from Matteo Capietto and keeping Tim Kerr hard at bay, with Edward Borgner just in behind him too, and Jaroslav Vasalo. Two Santalox currently down in 23rd and 25th, with Enzo Dellini further back, still trying to recover after the loss of the front wing at the very start of the race. And Yamakoshi also getting closer to the back of Ruiki Liu as well. Obviously Liu behind Edu Robinson, who in turn is currently sat behind Santiago Ramos, who we welcome back from FIA F3, where he took 2 wins. Former podium sitter here at the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine with RPM at the same time. So great to be back at Pastures Old, reunited with Keith Donegan, the team boss, who we always look forward to seeing. He hails all the way from Ireland, does Keith, former driver as well in this championship for RPM. Of course, RPM itself an Italian outfit that coincides with the likes of Prema, also feature from Italy, and by and large this is an Italian represented championship, with CL Motorsport also one of the new additions to the series that also hail from Italy and ran by the combination of Jack and David Lee. As we watch as the Luca Zabini-led Trident team continue on their way to hopefully securing yet another victory this season. It'll be win number 4 for Mathieu De Pallo, should he pull this off. And it puts him just 1 behind Freddie Slater's win count. Also, we look back at the historicals as well. If De Pallo does take his 5th win here today, he'll be, or his 4th win here today, I should say, he will join the likes of Dino Beganovic, James Wharton, Kaz Havercourt and Tuka Tapinen, who all managed to take 4 victories during their time in the series. Now Nikita Bedrin starts to get himself a little bit closer again, this time to the back of Michael Belov. Now these two, you could say, veterans of the series here at this point. Of course, Nikita Bedrin has also had experience levels above in the feeder series rostrum on the road to Formula 1. And he's going to be tangling now with Michael Belov, who is also a former race winner for G4 Racing here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Nikita Bedrin, twice a podium sitter in this championship as a whole. Michael Belov, twice a winner in this series in the past. Has also amassed 6 podiums in his own right, but he's going to need to call upon all of his experience to keep the tenacious Nikita Bedrin further back. Here comes Dion Gauda, now under pressure here from Santiago Ramos around the outside, and Ramos on his return, not quite able to make the move happen. Inside line though, goes for the swapper, the Mexican, trying his luck, but unable to do so. Great defensive driving there from Dion Gauda in this ongoing battle over 14th place. Gauda doing a great job to mitigate the efforts of Santiago Ramos and will retain the position out on track right now, but still has a gap of 1.2 to Akshay Bora, who sits just in front of him this time. The 35 of Edu Robinson having a great race too, currently 2nd though in the rookie standing. Remember, he started ahead of Dion Gauda. So now Gauda looking set to take yet another rookie race win. And he'll be looking to join previous rookie champions, the likes of Frederic Vesti, Gianluca Petikov, who both won the overall championships the same season they won the rookie championships. Isaac Hadjar, of course, a winner of the rookie championship back in 2021, and of course now a Formula 1 driver under the Red Bull banner with RB. And Leonardo Fornaroli, of course, the man who was contesting for the F2 championship, looking to follow in the same footsteps as Gabriel Bortoletto. And Martini Stenchon, also rookie champion the same year. Andrea Kimi Antonelli won the overall championship, with Noah Stromstead winning RPM's first title, with it being a rookie championship for them too. There's Noah Stromstead since going on also to do great things in FIA Formula 3 alike. And RPM looking to yet bring more drivers to the forefront. We've seen them bring the likes of Ian Eichmann's already in the past. Reno Francot, who made his Formula Regional European Championship debut last time out when we went racing at Red Bull Ring. Hopefully a talent we'll see in the future as well. No question, really impressed on debut in qualifying and race trim. See, he had to find time to get used to the new machinery, but it's a great starting point for him to maybe learn a little bit more about it before potentially coming next season. Obviously, we can bring you news as to how the team situation's going to look as we move to the Formula Regional European Championship for next year. stay tuned to the socials, everybody. I'm sure there'll be news out soon about that. You won't want to miss it. It's set to be an exciting time as it now gets the stamp of FIA authority. It takes pride in place as part of the official run-up from Formula 4 through to Formula 1, essentially placing Formula Regional directly in between FIA Formula 3 and Formula 4. As now we watch as Slater still tries to close the gap to Matteo De Pallo. 1.6 seconds now the gap, it's only going outwards, and if anything, Pedro Clero getting closer to the back of Freddie Slater now. It's only a second between them. Jin Nakamura has become a distant memory for Pedro Clero, so now he can just focus on what's in front of him here. It's 2.3 between the R-Race GP driver Nakamura and Clero, and even further back than that, Biran Bhakti, 4.3, stationed in behind Jin Nakamura. They're becoming strung out right through the entirety of the top 10 at this stage, with even Michael Bello 4.5 away from Kanato Lay. We've still got 7 minutes and 50 to take you through the remainder of this Barcelona race. Race 1 here of the weekend. Second one to bring you tomorrow with qualifying. Obviously kicking start with Group B heading out first. But there have been questions raised about the weather conditions for tomorrow. We are due to have a severe rainstorm coming in, which could mean the introduction of or very likely will mean the introduction of the wet tyres. By and large, being quite lucky with the weather conditions out on track over most of the rounds this season. But no question, the introduction of wet weather here this weekend could cause a stir. Throughout this 26-car classification, Enzo Dellini still, well, he was making his way around the track. Dellini actually in the pits now. He's only actually amassed 7 laps here today, so he retired a long time ago. So Enzo Dellini, I would probably likely suggest out of the race here, just looking to conserve the tyres and the car potentially for tomorrow. Just see there swapping the hands once again from Freddie Slater. Fully committed through this first sector again as he looks to try and keep Pedro Clero behind, but Clero now 2/10 closer over the last lap. Pedro Clero amassed a 1:38.350 against Slater's 1:38.532, and both drivers have just set in place personal bests. We'll take a look at the slow-mo again of the swapping of the hands. Just look at how precise Freddie Slater certainly is. We saw Matteo De Pallo doing similar things earlier on in the race. So with the way the track is laid out here at Barcelona, it requires you to be on your toes with the inputs on the car. But again, personal best for both Slater and Clero in the middle sector, and if anything, Clero is quicker than Freddie Slater at the moment. So the man who won back at Red Bull Ring, looking to amass another podium, but a better podium position than he's in right now. Obviously, currently sat in P3. P2 could be on the card, says Jin Nakamura, just climbing the hill through turn 10 out of turn 11 and in towards turn 12. As they descend downhill and around the final corner, Matteo De Pallo will change that number 14 to 15 laps and coast down through towards turn 1 with 5 minutes and 20 left to run. There's Nakamura again, just exiting out of turn 14. With Toyota Gazoo Racing emblazoned on the front of the car. As now we watch De Pallo come through the first sector again, this time around through turns 1 and 2. And once again, Clero getting closer. Last time it wasn't much of an improvement. 26 thousandths in the locker for Pedro Clero over the last lap, but an improvement's an improvement, and he is still within a second at the moment, 8/10 away. And is very likely trying to hunt down for any slipstream he can muster on the back of Freddie Slater right now as they descend down in towards the left-hander at Seat, and then in towards the Wirth curve, as they'll then look to ascend out of turn 8 and in towards turn 9. De Pallo now 1.5 seconds clear. Clero losing a 10th. Now 9/10 as opposed to 8. Now sprinting down through towards the Leclerc bend, obviously trying to test the limits on the brakes here. It's the Van Amersfoort driver. looking to restore Van Amersfoort back to the top once again. Could yet follow in the footsteps of Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Dennis Hauger this weekend. More notably, Pierre-Louis Chauvet, who was a winner here for Van Amersfoort back in 2020. As they make their way through the final corner once again. And De Parlo put 16 laps on the table. And Slater still giving chase. It's now 1.3. It's back to 8/10 now between Clero as well. We've got a bit of a mishmash further back as well. Now this is Nikita Bedrin. Onto the gravel goes Michael Belov. And in all of this, I think that must be Akshay Bora, also part of this as well. He's dropped down to P13. So it's lighting up further back. So as opposed to having quite vast gaps further up the rostrum, we've got close battles here further down, and this is all about the placings just outside the main points-paying positions. Here comes Akshay Bora now in the rear of the number 10 of Nikita Bedrin. A big switcheroo there for Akshay Bora, trying to be creative here through turns 1 and turns 2. And also further back, we have a bit of a close quarter action with Ruiki Liu and also Edu Robinson as they come through out of turn 3 through turn 4. And it's Nikita Bedrin still maintaining P11. Another look this time as well from the number 5 Trident driver. Robinson on his inside. Ruiki Liu trying to thread the needle here for the Trident team and make his way past the G4 Racing car. He's going to try again now, going heavy onto the brakes, coming in towards turn 7, but nothing doing. As they now look to send it up through out of turn 8 at Verth Curve, and now in towards turn 9 at Kamsa. Turn 10 then at the very end of the hill. As we now rejoin. Oh my goodness, Slater running wide, coming through the final 2 corners, and that now opens the door for Pedro Clero. The podium battle now renewed. And it will resume, with Pedro Clero now closing up on the back of Freddie Slater. The championship leader might be in jeopardy here. He has a look at the mirrors from left to right. And now here comes Clero this time to the outside. The Brazilian looking to punch a hole around the outside, coming through turns 1 and turns 2. Clero now fending him off again. Now it looks like the Slater has the upper hand. Just managed to keep the car under control. They came so close to contact. But Slater holding on to second place. And Clero forced to remain in third. You can't deny Clero tried with all his might. And just look at the swapping of the hands there from Freddie Slater. They came to within inches of coming together. Just look at how fine this was. In fact, they did touch. The rear right on Slater's car, just colliding with the side pod on Clero's Van Amersfoort machine. But both made it through the first sector absolutely fine. Great racing between Slater and Pedro Clero. And credit to Pedro Clero as well for being that creative in looking from left to right, very nearly finding that alternate line coming out of turn 2. And all of this just opening the gap up again to De Parlo, up to 3 seconds now. Clero, though, still very much close enough on the back of Slater. 6/10 now is the gap, but Slater obviously making a crucial error on that last lap that sent him out wide on the run out of turn 13 down towards turn 14. And now he's got to try and defend for his life now in the final dying moments of this race. Obviously, we'd fathom 2 laps left here in this one. Let's take a look at this now. Oh my goodness, and that is the number 6, I think. Is that Hugh Yamakoshi? Yes, and he's in the pits as well, and that's a damaged front wing. Suffering the same fate as Enzo Dellini. Only Dellini's was in the first sector on the opening lap. As now we see again, Clero leaving, or trying to leave, his very best until absolute last. Slater fended him off last time. He needs to fend him off again in order to maintain second. De Parlo increasing the gap now by another 10th. It's 3.1. And Mathieu De Parlo looking good value for a 4th win this season and the lead in the championship. To extend it to 220 points come the end of this race. As now Slater looks to ascend up through Verth Curve here this time. De Parlo already free from it and now making his way through Kamsa. And another great advert for the Trident team as they look to bring yet more success after their dominance in FIA Formula 3. They're now looking to bring the big results and take the fight to Bremer here in the latter stages of this season's championship. And to tee up 2 final rounds at Hockenheim and Monza. But this is the perfect way to start things in Barcelona. Of course, this next lap will be now the final lap. We are at 0, folks. So as they cross the line, the final lap will begin. And it looks like the Matteo De Paolo might have kicked up a little bit of gravel as well, but I don't think he's gotten away with it somewhat. As now Clearo once again looks to get closer to the back of Freddie Slater. 4 tenths between the two of them as they make their way down towards turn 1, and De Paolo will be the first to tackle the first 2 corners on the final lap. As they now cruise upwards through turn 3 and later turn 4. But it's been outright dominance by this young Italian who has risen to the occasion. Joined the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine last season with Santalok Racing. Ultimately impressing and eventually deciding to manoeuvre his way towards Trident. Clearo still on the back of Freddie Slater, trying to bring a last-ditch fight to the Prema driver. At the moment, nothing between those two right now. But all eyes currently set on our race leader at the moment as he climbs up Verth Curve and through towards Kamsa once again. The 17-year-old from Roma in Italy, who began his karting career back in 2016. It wasn't until 2023 he made his single-seater debut. Victorious in the Spanish F4 Championship, where things began for him. He finished 5th in the championship that year, also taking part in Italian F4 and British F4. Began his time in Freca, as I said, with Santalok last year. His best finish then was a 4th at Red Bull Ring, but he's ripped up the form books here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and now set to take a 4th win in the series, and taking in also in process the championship lead. He beats Freddie Slater here at Barcelona. It's Matteo De Paolo, your winner here at the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia, to open up the weekend. Pedro Clearo, a brilliant 3rd as well behind Slater, despite closing at the very end. It wasn't quite enough to make the move, though. He tried his best. Nakamura finishing a brilliant 4th ahead of Nandavad Birenbakti, his best result of the season for the other Trident driver. And we have got Taito Kato, highest of the ARTs, in 6th ahead of Evan Gilter. Rashid Al-Dahiri finishing in the points ahead of teammate Jack Beaton, who also features in the points once more, with Kanato Lay also finishing in 10th, meaning that it's 3 ARTs in the points as the checkered flag comes out. But Matteo De Paolo writing a strong legacy here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and now with the championship lead in his back pocket, could he be just 5 races away from lifting it aloft? It's Matteo De Paolo, your winner here at Barcelona for Trident, ahead of Freddie Slater in 2nd. It's Pedro Clearo who finishes in 3rd, Jin Nakamura in 4th, Nandavad Birenbakti 5th, Taito Kato in 6th ahead of Evan Gilter, and Rashid Al-Dahiri in 8th, Jack Beaton 9th, Kanato Lay rounds out the top 10. Nikita Bedrin in 11th, Akshay Bora 12th, Dion Gauda in 13th, and highest placed rookie as well, takes the rookie victory. Santiago Ramos in 14th on return ahead of Michael Belov in 15th place. Further back, Ruiki Liu in 16th, Edu Robinson 17th, Wanpu Kui in 18th place on his debut start, Maceo Capietto 19th, Tim Gerhards in 20th, Giovanni Maschio in 21st ahead of Edouard Borgner, then comes Yaroslav Vasalo in 23rd, Sakura Al-Maushari then in 24th, and of course Hiyu Yamakoshi losing time after losing the front wing, and also Enzo Delini out of the race. Both of the bottom 2 finishing in the pits, and Sakura Al-Maushari also ending up in the pits at the same time. But the drivers now make their way around the circuit once more. They'll then eventually make their way into the pit lane, but certainly no disputing our race winner. Matteo De Paolo will take the #1 spot in Parc Fermé for the 4th time this season, and that's podium number 8 as well for him too. Slater taking podium number 9, and for Pedro Clearo, it's podium number 5 for the young Brazilian. And more and more so, this is becoming distinctly a 2-horse race as this continues, though Pedro Clearo 3rd in this particular race. It is big points for Clearo, but again, Slater and De Paolo putting points on Clearo and therefore furthering the gap right now. But the one thing that we can say for Pedro Cleiro is that this does mean, in relation to his efforts on closing in on Enzo Dell'Ini for third in the championship, I believe he does overtake Enzo Dell'Ini for third in the title race, as now Matteo De Palio parks up at the #1 spot in Parc Fermé. Disconnects the helmet, removes the steering wheel, will hop out of the Trident cockpit, return the wheel back to the chassis, and I'm sure we'll look to stand tall and celebrate as he pulls together a 4th win of the season, and a very important one too. Title could be on its way to him. Of course, Slater is still very much there, but the lead in the championship will suffice for now for Matteo De Palio. Pedro Cleiro, helmet off, will go and give his regards to Freddie Slater at the same time, but Trident enjoying that one. And Luca Zabini's team will be absolutely thrilled with that performance. And Campastori coming across to celebrate with Matteo, who has been making history this season, largely because he's the first Trident driver to win in this series. Did so back at Misano, of course. Historical moment for the team, and since then going on to add yet more wins on top of wins. And it's the first time he's actually won a race in consecutive rounds as well, because usually he goes winless after winning in one particular round. But we'll take a look at the highlights. And it was a great start at the end of the day for both Freddie Slater and Matteo De Palio, but De Palio having that favourable inside line for the run in towards turn 1, I believe, made the difference. It was unfortunate for Enzo Dell'Ini, who had very little room to work with, found himself onto the grass, and also Matteo De Palio covering off Jin Nakamura coming in towards turn 1. Matteo De Palio, though, led the way coming through turns 1 and turns 2. Unfortunately for Enzo Dell'Ini, he would lose his front wing and topple down the order, eventually finding himself into the pits and retiring. And again, more moves are being made. Pedro Cleiro eventually would go wheel to wheel, this time with Jin Nakamura, as he looked to try and move ahead of the RHGP driver in a pursuit for 3rd place. He carried the speed around the outside, threading the narrowest of gaps and finding his way through again. Eventually, we would see some side-by-sides also between Dion Gauda and another RHGP, this time of Akshay Bora. Eventually, it would be Akshay who would move his way through. And then we saw a lock-up as well for Dion Gauda with the 74 RPM of Santiago Ramos, trying to move through. Eventually, we had some tying up between two of the drivers inside the podium places. Eventually, Slater defending against Cleiro. But again, Van Amersfoort in trouble this time, though, with Hugh Yamakoshi also losing his front wing too, coming into the pits. But at the very end of play, it was Matteo De Palio who would lift aloft a 4th win of the season, and in the process, taking the lead of the championship. Luca Zabini there on hand to obviously give a hug to Matteo De Palio. Our attention now diverts to the podium, where we will be seeing our top 3 take to the podium, as well as the rookie winner, Dion Gauda. Of course, we'll have the Trident team representative as well, standing tall next to the drivers as well. But a cracking start to the weekend, and of course, Trident once again making history with this being their first win at Barcelona. And in the process, obviously since 2019, it's another new team added to the list of winners. Of course, we've had Prema, US Racing, Van Amersfoort, ART, R-Race. So 6 different teams taking a race win here at Barcelona. Pedro Cleiro standing tall on the 3rd step. Could have been so easily the 2nd step if he managed to hoodwink Freddie Slater, but Slater was very stern in his defense. Matteo De Palio celebrates the race victory, though, and will stand tall on the top step with Luca Zabini, team boss of Trident. And certainly last but not least at all by any means, it'll be Dion Gauda from the UK with a rookie race win And the trophy presentation will now begin. Of course, the boss of the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia, Mr. Santa Maria, presenting the third-place trophy to Pedro Cleiro. We have the Pirelli representative, of course, presenting Freddie Slater with the second-place trophy here this time. Could have been so easily a win. Obviously, the start was so integral. Matteo De Paolo was absolutely right with that in his interview after qualifying. Mr. Santa Maria presenting the winning trophy to Matteo De Paolo, and it will be a trophy that marks a change in that championship lead, as we did allude to. Matteo De Paolo now standing on top of it, with Luca Zabini now being presented with the winning team's trophy. Small collection now starting to brew now at Trident here this season, is now Dion Garda, last but certainly not least, standing alongside his teammate and colleague Pedro Cleiro, will accept the rookie winning trophy. But before we have the champagne, it will be the Italian national anthem as they stand on the podium. Certainly an anthem that Matteo De Paolo will be hoping will be rung out when we go to Monza, of course, later on in the season. But folks, that is all we've got time for here today. Join us tomorrow morning for qualifying ahead of race 2 tomorrow. Goodbye.